pump us up, release the lion that is within you, and you feel pumped up. You feel so energetic. You feel so motivated. And yet after just 1 month, that lion that is inside of you ends up looking like this character right here. Okay, so how do we make sure that we become effective with these goals that we want to achieve? This is something that has been plaguing me for quite a number of, for quite some time. So I started trying to do a bit of research in it. And the methodology that I'm going to be sharing with you guys is a result of my very own research. So I have 2 documents that I'm going to share with you guys, but I'm only going to share them with you at the end of the training. Yeah, Michael, why do you want to give them to us at the end of the training? The reason is quite simple. As a trainer, one of the things that we're taught is that if you hand out your notes at the beginning, what are people going to do? They'll end up reading, and then people won't actually pay attention. So with that being said, I hope that you have a pen and paper, because we're going to be diving in through the theory relatively quickly, because I want us to get to the practical side where we are literally going to start working on these goals and objectives. And what I want from you is the following. I want one volunteer. I want you to think of an objective, and we are practically going to start working on it and breaking it down in a practical sense. So with that being said, why is it that people fail? Why do we fail? Let me hear from one of you. You can just unmute yourself. Why do we fail? Fail to achieve our goals, that is.
Sometimes we don't believe in that we can actually do it. And so the effort behind the goal, yeah.
Perfect. Yes, that's correct. That issue of, the lack of self-belief, some people call it imposter syndrome. You're 100% correct, and we're going to look at how it ties in and why it's actually there. So the first thing that we need to realize is that when it comes to motivation, a lot of people think that if you're not motivated enough, you are not going to be able to achieve your goal. And that's quite correct. Motivation plays a vital and a crucial role. But how exactly does motivation work? Most of us think that motivation has to do with pleasure, which is a myth, ladies and gentlemen. Motivation has got less to do with pleasure and more to do with relieving discomfort. Relieving discomfort. So in other words, the human brain, the human mind doesn't like to be in a state where it's either too high or too low. It always wants to normalize. When you become too excited, your brain wants to bring you back down again eventually. When you are too angry, too upset, it tries to bring your spirits back up again. The human mind likes to be in a state of balance. So for example, when you think about that fancy smartphone that you have right now, or, the laptop that you are actually watching this presentation from, in the days leading up to you buying that item, you couldn't sleep. You're imagining, when I get that money, I'm going to walk into that shop. You imagine the confidence you're going to have. You go, you get it, you come back home, you unbox it. You're even smelling the packaging as well. And you feel as though you are on cloud 9. 2 or 3 months later, you don't feel exactly the same way as you did in the beginning. And it's quite obvious because the brain wants to have balance. This leads us to the point that we need to realize that, well, when it comes to your drive, the drive to relieve discomfort is the reason for all your behavior. The reason that you do things is because your mind doesn't like being in this place where, I don't really know what I'm doing, and I don't like being in a state of discomfort. So let's try and put this in more practical terms, as we heard about things of fear. So this little red dot represents the goal, the objective that you want to achieve, that you see in your mind. Maybe you see yourself as a professional speaker. Maybe it's getting married. It's a house. Who knows what it is? But you have this goal. You have this dream, this vision in this big red dot. And you feel so good, so inspired when you think and when you dream about it. However, the more that you think about it, eventually you start feeling uncomfortable because you are not yet at the point where you can live out this dream. In other words, you start doubting yourself. Am I really going to make this dream? Will I ever achieve this objective? And what happens? Imposter syndrome comes in. Now your mind starts feeling uncomfortable. And because your mind starts feeling uncomfortable, what does your brain do? Your mind says, I don't like this feeling of being uncomfortable. It makes me feel it is a very discomforting feeling. And in order to get rid of that discomfort, your mind is going to say, guys, we need a distraction. Let's make Michael think about something else to avoid us having to feel bad about this goal that we cannot achieve. So now the distraction comes in, and what happens? The distraction is going to make you feel a sense of temporary relief and happiness. But what do we know? Immediately after that, you now start feeling guilty. Why? Because I have not yet achieved this goal and this dream that I actually wanted to achieve. So this is the cycle of distraction. So distractions are never, ever, 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 ever going to go anywhere. We need to realize that they are part and parcel of life. What we have to do is work out a system that is going to help us to work towards our goals in spite of the distractions. So when we try and tie this into the topic of success, right? What is success really? Think about it from this point of view. You have this goal that we were just speaking about. How do you get to your goal? Your actions are going to determine whether you get to your goal. Your actions are either going to pull you away from your goal through distractions, or your actions are going to pull you towards your goal, helping you progress in that direction. So if our actions are either positive or negative, what determines our actions? And the thing that determines our actions are something called triggers. Now, there are two kinds of triggers. External, these could now be your cell phone ringing, a child crying in the next room, the notification on your cell phone. When you see you see that light flashing, that is an external trigger. And what will that trigger do? It makes you pick up your phone, which will lead to a distraction because now you end up on social media for 30 minutes to 2 hours. But you also have internal triggers as well. These are things such as hunger. These are things such as your emotions. These are internal triggers. When you are happy, you'll be triggered to do certain things. When you become sad, you become triggered to do certain things. Some people eat, when they become depressed. So managing the triggers is of the utmost importance, because if you manage to control the triggers, these triggers will determine your actions, and your actions are going to determine how close you're going to get to your goal. Now, we're not just here to speak about a lot of theory. We have a solution that I would like to share with you. What we're going to do here today in this session, and we're going to do this practically, is the following. Number one, we are first going to define an objective. Now, this objective has to be SMART. It needs to be specific, measurable, attainable, it needs to be relevant, and it needs to be time-bound. One of the things that kills us is that our objectives are too big. And because they're too big, we cannot see how to solve them. There's a saying in Africa, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. After defining our objective, we are then going to define the key results. These may not be more than 4. They have to be 4 or less. If they are greater than 4, it means that your objective is too large. It needs to be readjusted. After we then determine these key results, we're then going to look at what the characteristics are of a person who has achieved this objective. What qualities will this person have? And once we establish what those characteristics are, we're then going to figure out what kind of habits does such a person with these characteristics have. And then we're going to get down into planning, where we start putting down the habits that are going to give you to the characteristics that are going to turn you into a person who is going to achieve this goal. Whew, okay, I just said a lot of stuff. So practice makes perfect. Let us jump right into it. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm just quickly getting out my iPad and we need a volunteer. Who's going to volunteer? We need a volunteer. And let's see. Now my screen sharing wants to misbehave. Please, please, please do not misbehave. Okay, there we go. We're back in action again. So please unmute yourself. If you are ready, let us work on this goal and this objective practically. I don't want to just stand here and talk. We need to do this practically. So let me just quickly share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, there we go. Wonderful. So this is part of the template that I'm going to share with you guys. I'm going to send it to you towards the end. So what I need you guys to do is the following. Please type in your email address so that I can actually email this to you. So let's take a look at it. So the first page or the first document is where we're going to work on our objectives. We're going to write down the objective that you want to achieve. After writing down that objective, what are the key results that are going to define the successful completion of this objective? What are the characteristics and qualities of a person who has achieved this goal? Then we're going to jump into what are the habits that you need to employ in order for you to achieve this goal. Then from there, we come to the practical section where we're going to write down your habits, and then we're going to put them down on a timetable, a weekly calendar over here. So do we have any takers? Do we have any volunteers? Who would like to go? Please unmute yourself and then you can go ahead, you can talk. This can be a personal objective, it can be work-related, doesn't matter. Do we have any takers? Going once, going twice? Remember, this is for your growth, for your development. Let us do it practically.
I think I have one.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. What is your objective?
To start a podcast.
To start, oh, wonderful. To start a podcast. Okay, wonderful. What is the deadline that you have for starting this podcast? You can pick anything off the top of your head. And this deadline is just to help us from a psychological point of view, to put us under a little bit of pressure to start getting things in action. What's the deadline for you to start this podcast?
End of June.
June has how many days? Is it 30 or 31?
30, I think.
30, okay. 30th of June, 2022 at 1700 hours. We're trying to be as specific as possible. Okay, wonderful. So what are the 4 things that you need to tick off in order for you to say that you have actually started this podcast? What's the first thing that you require, that is required of you to achieve?
I think the medium, like where you're going to publish your podcast, like
okay.
is it to identify that, to identify where the podcast is going to be done.
Okay, so you need to identify a hosting platform.
Yes.
Okay. So when are you going to, what deadline would you give to yourself to finish doing the research and identify that, okay, this is the platform that I want to use? What would the deadline for that be?
I think, now end of June doesn't sound like it's far away.
Exactly. Exactly. And can you see how it works, right? When we start putting these things down practically, we start to work out through the kinks and the issues. And not to worry, we can always revise this. Okay, so end of June doesn't sound realistic. So when do you want to achieve this overall objective? How far back should we push it?
Okay, I think July now. So
Very
end of
good.
July. Yeah.
Okay. The 1st of July, 2022.
Yes.
At 1700 hours. Very good. So now we come to, when are you going to finish doing your research to identify which platform you're going to use?
I will give myself 4 weeks from today.
4 weeks? Okay.
That
who has a calendar?
Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's like the 11th of June.
11th of June, 2022. At what time?
Same time.
Same time. Very good.
100 hours, yes.
Yes, very good. What is the second thing that you need to tick off in order for you to say, okay, I have now started my platform? So, step, you do the research, right? To identify this platform. What is the next thing to tick off for you to be able to say that you now have a podcast, that you started a podcast?
To narrow down on a topic.
Okay, so I'll say research and choose a topic.
Yes.
Very good. When are you going to narrow down and choose your topic for your first podcast? By what date?
Could I make it the same date as the hosting, like the 11th of June?
Yes, you may. Yes, you may. This is yours. Yes. You can put down and change these things as you please. Okay. What is another key result that must be ticked off in order for you to say, I have released my podcast, it's out there in the world? What's the next thing that we need to tick off and do?
I think just from experience of listening to other podcasts would be to sort of plan a series. So like people do like a series of 5, a series of 6, then you change to something else. So from that topic, I need to sort of break it down further to see what I'm going to release over a certain number of episodes, so to speak.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, now, very good. Now, this is a brilliant example. That objective that you have just mentioned, in my opinion, is actually too big to fit under this thing of you starting a podcast, because that is going to require its own research, sitting down, working out the series that you want. Right here, right now, we're just talking about the very, very, very first episode. So you said that you need to identify the hosting platform and you need to start researching and choosing the topic. I would like to suggest one thing you need to do. You need to actually write the podcast or actually record the podcast that you're going to put out.
Okay, yes.
Okay. So let me say record and publish.
Yes.
And by what date are you going to record and publish this podcast? And guys, please forgive my doctor's handwriting. Yeah.
Maybe it should be record and edit.
Okay,
then
record and edit.
publishing. Yeah, 'cause there's also a lot that goes into the editing, I think. So
Very good.
yeah, so I would put that at the end of June. So like the 30th of June.
Very good. So for the sake of time, we will stick with these 3 results. We could add maybe one more if there is one more, but whatever happens, in order for us to achieve, oh, wait, hang on a second. Wait, you need to publish it. That's the 4th one, yeah. You actually have to put it on. That's correct. Publish the... And this, the deadline for this, I presume will be what we have here, the 31st. When do you want to publish this podcast by? Your overall deadline is the 31st of July.
Yeah, I think that is the sort of big deadline that would have. So maybe
very good. No?
Yeah, the same one. Yeah. Yes, the same one, the 31st of July. Yeah.
Perfect. So now that Michelle has identified the 4 key results that she needs in order for her to tick off this goal, these are very realistic. I love them. We even have the dates. The question now becomes, Michelle, what kind of person do you need to be in order for you to get this work done? What kind of characteristics? Now, I want you to think of yourself in the future. You have already published this podcast. What kind of a person are you? What kind of characteristics do you possess as the person who has achieved this goal?
Okay, I think I need to be focused.
Okay, you need to be focused. Okay, yes. Let me say focused and disciplined.
Yes.
What is another characteristic of your future self? You are focused, you are disciplined. What else?
Consistent.
Yes, you are consistent. Lovely. This is very important with podcasts because you constantly have to be producing. What's another characteristic? You are focused, you are disciplined, you are looking at yourself. You are there already. What kind of a person are you? What are your characters? What are your qualities? Yes, go ahead.
Well-read. Like well-read
and aware. Lovely. Well-read. I love it. Do you have one more, or is this it?
I'm thinking about it.
You are your perfect self. Okay, it's fine. Let's stick with these. It's also not a problem. Now, remember that we're just doing a demonstration. And guys, I'm going to email this document that we are working on right here. It'll be emailed to each and every single one of you. That's why I asked for your email addresses. So now, Michelle, when you look at your future self, you are focused, you are disciplined, you are consistent, and you are well-read. Now, my next question to you is, what are the habits of a person who is focused and disciplined, the habits of a person who is consistent, and a person who is well-read? The easiest one to start off over here is reading, since you say you need to be well-read. So you say, I need to read, okay? Can you see that this is now the habit? So, Michelle, you say you need to read. How often do you need to read? Is it daily, weekly, or monthly? And how many times?
I would say weekly.
Weekly?
3 times.
How many times per week? 3 times per week. And how long are you going to be reading for? You see how we're breaking this down? The practical steps, this is where it really counts.
Yeah.
How long do you need to read for?
I was going to say an hour, but knowing my day, that seems hectic. So if I say daily for 30 minutes, that sounds more doable. Okay,
and you see how we've now filtered into the realm of reality. No longer 3 times per week for an hour. It's now going to be, I need to read for 30 minutes per day. So here I remove the cross from week, and then this is going to be 1 time per day. That's one of the habits that you need to employ. What is another habit that you need to have as a person who is consistent, as a person who is focused, as a person who is disciplined? What habits has this future self got, your future self got? What do you do in the future? I beg your pardon?
I research.
Yes.
On topics, and yeah.
I research topics for the podcast. Yes, definitely. If you don't research these topics, you're not going to be able to do it. How often do you do this research for these topics?
That one I can do 3 times a week.
3 times a week?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So there are other characteristics that Michelle could have. Now, for the sake of time, I'm just going to leave it here at these 2. On this template, you can add as many as 10. Now, let us now move on to the next section. So one of the documents that I'm going to send you, it has the actual place where we're going to note our objectives and our key results. So over here, you see that you never work on more than 2 objectives at one time so that you don't overwhelm yourself. This is very important. Under objective 1, we're just going to, we would write out the same thing that we have here, which is to start a podcast. So I'll just put that in here just so we can see. So objective 1 is to start a podcast. So these are 2 different documents. The one on top over here is 1 page on its own, and you do this with each and every one of your objectives. These 2 pages here are part of the same document. So over here, you would then now write down your key results, the ones that we have already done, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to put them down. Let's now come to the habits. So the first habit that Michelle said she needs to improve is that she needs to read for 30 minutes a day. So under key habits, I'm going to say, I need to read for 30 minutes per day. And then the second habit you had was you need to research, né?
Yes.
Researching topics. Very good. So each and every time that Michelle reads during that week for 30 minutes, what is she going to do? She's going to put a tick. She reads again the next day, she puts a tick. When she manages to research her topics, she puts a tick there. This is very important because it is going to help you see and track how often you are engaging in these habits. And it becomes like a game. The more you do them, the more you are going to transform into the person that has achieved this goal of relating to your podcast. When we further look at this template on a daily basis, your top 3 tasks, what are the top 3 things you need to do for that day? There's also a section, sorry, I'm moving so fast here, where you can write down notes, important ideas as they come out. So with this template, you can either print it out on a day, like on a weekly basis, put them in a file, and then you can track your progress. Or what some of my clients do is they print out this document, they laminate it, and then they use Koki pens, felt tip markers on a weekly basis to fill this out. Next week, they rub out the things that need to be rubbed out, and then they continue. That's more environmentally friendly. So now, Michelle, let us now come to our weekly planner. You said that you need to read for 30 minutes a day. Now we need to put this into actual practice. What is the best time going to be for you to do your reading?
I would say 10 o'clock.
Evening or AM, PM?
10 o'clock in the morning, AM.
Okay. From Sunday to Saturday or just specific days of the week? Every day, no?
Yeah, no, Monday to Friday.
Monday to Friday. Okay, very good. You said Monday to Friday from 10 to
10,
11. Yes. So here we'll put down reading And we're putting this down on our calendar, on our weekly calendar. And you see what Michelle has done, which is quite clever, is that she has chosen the same time every day to implement this habit. And because of this, it's going to be much easier for Michelle to do this in the long run, to be consistent. This now ties into that goal of consistency. So, Michelle, when do you need to do your research for your topics? And you need to pick 3 days and times, because you said it needs to be 3 times a week. When does that need to happen?
Okay, I'll do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Monday, okay. Mm-hmm.
At 6 o'clock, at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, okay. Yeah. For how long?
I think that's an
1 hour.
Yes.
An hour, okay. Research. Then Wednesday. And then we said Friday.
Mm.
So, ladies and gentlemen, can you now see how we are now making a plan to help Michelle realize her goal and objective of releasing the podcast? We have now taken it out of the realm of just something that is in her head and tried to come up with a plan where she will be able to practically implement it. Remember, your distractions are never, ever, ever going to go away completely. You need to cater and account for these distractions. And so as a result of that, you have to be intentional about where you put them down. Now, one thing to note is that Michelle is not going to be able to follow this program 100% of the time, but it's not a problem, because as long as you say, okay, I didn't manage to do it today, but I'll do it tomorrow, you are going to start building that consistency. Eventually, it is going to become a habit, okay? And that habit is going to get you to your goal. So here we just looked at 2 habits. You would actually fill out the rest of them. And when you do it this way, where you are also able to track how often, you are actually implementing those habits. Your habits are essentially your actions that are going to lead you and take you closer to your goal. So we have another 4 minutes. And if there are any questions that you have, please, please, please ask me your questions.
I have a question, Michael. And
yes, please do.
How many of these do you advise someone runs at a given point in time? We always tend to want to do a lot. And after doing this exercise, you then see that, just this one thing takes a lot of input and work. So how many goals do we focus on at any given point in time?
Okay, I love that question. Let me stop sharing my screen. So the answer is as follows. You are going to write down 10 goals, just randomly off the top of your head. You know what? These are the 10 things I would like to achieve. Once you have written down those 10 items, what you're then going to do is you're going to say, of these 10, which are the most important 3 to 5? You put a star next to those, and then you say, okay, so of these 3 to 5, which are the most pertinent ones that I need to start doing or working on right now? And then you give them a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first 2 goals that you're going to do will be goal number 1, goal number 2. And when you finish off with goal number 1, what happens is they then shift up. Then goal number 2 becomes goal number 1. Goal number 3 becomes goal number 2. And that's how I recommend that you actually go about it. Trying to eat an elephant at one particular point in time is not realistic. Now, here's another thing that you can do. The more that you become, the more used that you become to using this system, you might be able to juggle about 3 objectives at one time, but I highly recommend just focus on 2 at a time and then just keep on pushing them through.
All right, thank you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
I have a question.
Anyone else?
Yes. So
yes.
You had said that you will not be able to follow them through 100%. I tend to be very hard on myself. So when you fail, what strategies can you then employ when you, the times when you fail?
Okay. So this is what you do. Every time when you manage to succeed, you need to do something to pat yourself on the back. If you're a person who likes chocolate or sweets, give yourself a sweet, give yourself a break. So reward yourself for the times when you actually manage to do it correctly. And when you do that, because what we don't want to do is to be focusing on the negative side. And with the habits, what's going to happen is that because you are focused more on your behavior, you will start seeing that your behavior is going to start changing. And here's the other very important thing. When you start ticking off, I'm done with this, I'm done with that, you know what happens psychologically? You gain more confidence. You become more inspired to push it further. So when you, and the reason why we feel bad about not achieving these goals is because, generally speaking, there are 2 types of goals that we set as people. We have the type of goal which is something that is like, I'm going to buy a car or I'm going to buy a house. And the problem with those types of goals is that there is no in between. Either you get the car, the house, or you don't. With what I've just shown you, you are working on progress. So your actions will eventually lead you to get to that goal.
Thank you very much. And I think the room is...
That is absolutely amazing. I don't know if you can see, but I can already feel it. The session that I attended was all about overcoming anxiety when you're presenting. I don't know, I feel and I think I do have a spring in my step. From this session on, I'm doing far better than what I was doing at the beginning. So yes, it was very impactful for me. I'm dealing with those anxieties that I was feeling, the nerves. I'm managing all of that very well. But please don't put me on the spot as such. I'm still learning, okay? This is new learnings that I've just gathered now. So I'm putting them into practice.
Wonderful. You know, we can always do that. Toastmasters doesn't allow for bystanders or whatever that is, you know. So we have to put you on the spot. Put your skills to the test.
Yes. We learn by doing in Toastmasters. So, hey, it's coming in very handy, I must say.
Agreed, agreed.
We are looking forward to the next batch of sessions, new learnings, growth that we're going to experience. And I'm ready to tell our people about what's coming next. Are you ready too, Shegerai?
I am very ready.
Awesome. From what I can be able to see on my agenda, we are going to start off at, not in a few minutes time, we'll be going out to breakout rooms once more so that we can be able to go and learn more. You will have an option to choose from 4 classes, what it is that you want to learn urgently. It's just unfortunate that you can't be at 4 places at the same time, but you will have an option to go to the next class in the next session. So first I'm going to introduce one of the first master classes. It's going to be run by Lesedi Muyenga. Lesedi is going to be training us on the power of vision boards. I have a niece, Shingerai, that has got a vision board in her room. I was so inspired to see it, but obviously it's not making a lot of sense. And that is why I invited her to this session, so that her vision board can be something that she can be able to interpret and put in place. So I know that there's going to be some great learnings on there, and I'm looking forward to this session with Lesedi. What would be the second breakout room for, please, Shingerai?
Excellent. First of all, I'd like to say that Liseli is my club president, so when she talks about vision board, she's very passionate about that. So people can be very assured of being interested in that. What I'm going to be talking about is one thing that I did last month, I believe. I took an online test and it came out between IQ and emotional intelligence. My IQ test was pretty okay. My emotional intelligence result came out, it said rubbish. So I shut my computer and I thought it was the boss. But deep down, I knew that I needed emotional intelligence. And this is what Lisa Fraser is going to be talking about, folks. Lisa Fraser is going to be talking about emotional intelligence, how best we can get our emotions in check to become overall better human beings, better our careers, better our businesses. That's Lisa's particular venture and room of expertise. What's our next one, Modi?
I'm looking forward to that. And I'm thinking maybe I don't have to attend that session, because now that we are friends, you and I, Shingerai, you can get me connected with her so that she can come to my club and do the presentation. That is amazing. You are going to do that for me. And thank you already for that. Then the third Black Breakout Room will be hosted by Michael. Michael will be presenting this one, and he will be telling us about the power of storytelling. You will be in for a treat because he's going to share his personal story and give you the main nuggets about the power of storytelling. I mean, let's face it, when you tell people a story in relation to what you're trying to convey to them, they actually get the message much clearer than if you do just, throwing information at them. So I'm also looking forward to that one. So Michael will be looking, or rather coordinating in that breakout room to help you with finding that niche for storytelling. Who will be in our fourth breakout room, please, Shingerai?
Modi, that's good. Michael is a good guy. I was just from his previous session. His delivery was excellent. I have no doubt in my mind he will do well. The next person that I'm going to speak about is one man. When I just opened his video, I said, and he just uttered, I think, the first 5 or so words. I said, that's a leader right there. Ravin Papia. Ravin is going to be speaking about leadership and resilient mindset. I can also tell you, I'm sure you'll agree, Modi is the president, and I'm sure many of our viewers and people online right now are career people, are business people who have certain issues in their businesses or careers where they have had challenges. So you want to be resilient in some of these issues. Ravin will be tackling many of these things. I cannot wait. I was watching one movie the other day, partially watching one movie, and it was a movie about replicas. I really wish I could have 4 Shingi replicas and then just throw them in those different sessions, come back and then gather that information. But I cannot, we cannot, so we have to choose. Modi, what are we going to go for here?
I am okay. So the nice thing is I'll be covered in 3. I just need to make a plan about the 4th one. So you're going to connect me with the one. I need to go for, I don't know. I think I'm just going to do the closing of the eyes and just, pick whichever one is the safest. So we'll see. But if I land in the one that you are going to sort me out with Lisa, then I will move to another one because Lisa is coming to visit my club. Thank you, Lisa.
Wonderful.
So now the challenge is for our people. Please choose which one you're going to go with. And I promise you will be inspired either way.
Excellent. One thing we just need to find out, Bertus was telling me he's creating the room. Bertus, are we ready with our breakout rooms?
I will launch and then everybody has to choose. Only the facilitator and the Zoom master will automatically go to their respective rooms. So I'm going, there's the button being pressed, it's open.
Good morning, Ravin. I was actually going to be the one to record the session so that we can then share it.